Yeah.
Okay, well, 3 p.m. we'll bring this regular council meeting to order, and I'll ask Councillor Heistad to please read the land acknowledgement.
Thanks, Mayor Barclay. The town of Innisfil acknowledges that we are meeting on Treaty 7 territory, the ancestral and traditional territory of the Blackfoot Confederacy, Kainai, Piikani, and Siksika, as well as the Tsuut'ina First Nation and Stoney Nakoda First Nation. We acknowledge that this territory is home to Métis Nation of Alberta, Region 3, with the historical Northwest Métis homeland. We acknowledge the many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit who have lived in and cared for these lands for generations. We are grateful for the traditional knowledge keepers and elders who are still with us today and those who have gone before us. We make this acknowledgement as an act of reconciliation and a gratitude to those whose territory we reside on.
I would make that motion, Mayor Barclay.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried. All right, and we'll move into 3.1, the regular council meeting minutes for August the 10th. Could I please have someone make a motion that we adopt those as presented? Councillor Heistad?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Any changes? No, all in favor? Okay, carried. All right, and we'll get into our council agenda now. 4.1, notice of motion, and I'll turn it over to CEO Becker.
Thanks, Mayor Barclay. Hello, Council. I'll speak to the contents of the report, put it over then to Councillor Russell, who was the author of the notice of motion that was presented before Council on August the 10th. As you can see, Councillor Russell, supported by Council through a resolution to direct administration regarding some information regarding moving into eliminating one A&P meeting per month, as well as the summer months. Although not part of the written notice of motion, Councillor Russell did speak to the proposed motions, which I'm gathering he would speak to today. I won't read them, and I'll let him speak to that. As per the request of administration did conduct a little bit of research and looked at different municipalities, similar size and location in the area and a little bit beyond, just on the number of council meetings, committee meetings that make up their governance model. That's there for your information, Council. It's also referenced, requested for the budget impacts for eliminating one A&P meeting per month, as well as the summer months. As Councillor Russell indicated in his delivery of his notice of motion, administration agrees to be in that $10,000 savings, which is gathered through your remuneration policy. Through the work I undertook, difficult to really quantify dollars, but you can quantify dollars on the amount of time administration does spend on development of council agenda items. However, did not quantify a number so much to demonstrate the value or the cost of developing the agendas, but I'll speak to this throughout the report. Administration through myself indicates there could be some inefficiencies for administration in the ability to allocate time to other priorities during the weeks off, if there's 5 weeks in a given month, instead of allocating time slots each week to report development. But the report indicates later that you can speak, probably counter argue to the point that it could add additional workload to administration. From my perspective, it outlines really the procedure in developing a council agenda, whether it's a council meeting or an A&P meeting. It's the same process, but as the report states, each director researches, prepares their RFDs, comes to the CO for review. Once our review is complete, it goes to the executive assistant then to start the process to put it into the agenda format digitally. And really depends on the size of the agenda, but it could range from 2 to 4 hours per agenda. I was saying this morning to SLT that I could spend probably 2 to 3 days per week, regardless. as a CAO in reviewing and developing the package each week dedicated to council's agenda developments. The report indicates how council has traditionally used AMP meetings, and that is to dive deeper into different agenda items, but also have been used as an engagement channel with community stakeholders, as well as for policy and strategy reviews, including budget. The report indicates we're here to support you, so it's really up to council to determine what governance way or mechanism or procedure you wish to have to allow you to conduct your work. Just going down into the very last sentence, as stated, AMP meetings rest largely with council's strategic and governance priorities and the style and depth of council wishes to govern by. So if council has any questions to my report, specifically to the information I presented, certainly take those questions. If not, I put over to Councillor Russell to speak to his notice of motion.
Okay, thank you, CEO Becker. Councillor Russell?
Okay, thanks, Mayor Barclay. So I spoke to this at the last meeting, and, you know, about the length of minutes. When we go back, that 96-minute length of meeting is 2 years back. And so it's 15 months of the previous council and 9 months of the current council. So those are the average meeting lengths. And I don't think anyone could say that any argument was cut short or any discussion cut short in that time. So we were able to accomplish them in a fairly short, some of them fairly short times. Our last meeting was an example. If we hadn't have spent the 10 minutes on the notice of motion that I put forward, there really was only one agenda item, and we would have been done in 50 minutes. And I understand there are some times that it's going to be a little longer, but the reason I brought this forward wasn't, you know, there is budget implications for sure in terms of remuneration for council. There is certainly time demands that would be a little less for administration if we reduced by one. But it's looking at being the most effective governors, but we also need to do it in the most efficient way. So not knowing if it would work long-term, I did want to wait until, you know, the first few months I wondered why we had 4, but as it went on, I wondered more. So waited the 9 months to bring it forward. For me, I think with the motion that I'm going to put forward, there's very little risk to council because, as I mentioned before, council always has the right to call an additional meeting if needed for an emergent item. But based on the data that's there and the meetings of the last 24 months, I think there's a possibility that we could maybe do it in 3 meetings a month rather than 4. But I'm not asking council to make a commitment right now without having a trial basis. So what I'm recommending, and then I'll put the motion on the floor, that council trial 1 AMP meeting per month for 6 months, held on the first Monday of each month from September 1st, 2026 to February 28th, 2027. If this first motion passes, then I would make the second motion, but there's no sense making that till we see how the first motion goes. And that second motion would be, at that time, after a 6-month trial, we evaluate it. And for me, I think there's zero risk, but I think there's 2 wins for council in this if we were to do this. One is if we were to do it, and we were able to do it for 3 meetings a month, and it seemed to be effective, there would be some savings in terms of cost to taxpayers and also in terms of time to our administration. With a new CAO, they're going to be, you know, have a busy year getting to get their feet under them, so having that extra time might be beneficial to a new CAO. But, you know, so that would be one win. It also would be a win if we found out it didn't work. Because then I could say to any taxpayer who said to me, why do you have 4? I could say, listen, we tried to do it in 3, it's just not possible. We need to have the 4th meeting. So I see a win on both sides, regardless of what the decision is on February 22nd, but we won't know unless we do the trial. So I'll just leave it at that.
Thank you, Councillor Russell. So we have a motion on the table. I'll open it up for discussion now. We'll go around to see what everybody thinks. Councillor Heistad? Well, okay. I thought you were going to put your light on, but okay.
Oh, yeah.
You go ahead.
No, beauty before age. Okay. Yeah, actually, I made comments, I think it was a couple weeks ago. I think that our current route that we work on is effective. I believe that, similar to what, I'm trying to recall what I said, we got a new CAO coming. We have a lot of changes. I think there's a lot more work for this council in the next 3 years. And it comes down to, with you have a new CEO coming on stream, it's making sure that we're doing our jobs as, governors, and making sure that we're attuned to what's going on in our community. And I think that having those two A&Ps, that gives us that opportunity to have those communications and the one-on-ones with people in our own community. And we're addressing things sooner than later. And I find that the AMP is a great opportunity as to the day-to-day work, whereas the regular council meetings, sometimes we're dealing with the day-to-day, but the AMP, we get to really know the nuts and bolts of what's going on in each department, and we have that free flow. And I like the free flow as a councillor more regularly than not. So, Councillor Russell, I'm going to be opposed to this motion, but I respect where you're coming from, and thanks.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Heistad and Councillor Hill.
Yes, thank you. I would be definitely in favor of trying this out. I see the side of being responsible to the community and seeing if we can function well and efficiently without the fourth meeting. And I think I don't see a problem with trying it and being able to say that we did try it, and knowing that we've been kind of, with the information provided to us, there are 3 meetings a month seems to be quite regular or quite common for most municipalities, but maybe we do need the fourth, maybe we don't, but this is the only way we're going to find out. So I'm fine with that.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Hill. Anybody else want to jump in? Councillor McKellar.
Thank you, Mayor Barclay. I'll speak in favor of Councillor Russell's motion here as well. I think, as he said earlier, we got nothing to lose by trying this and just seeing how it works. I too have often wondered, particularly from the administrative side, the volume of work that happens each week after we leave here to get us ready for the next meeting. So I think there's some wins here, and we'll have some answers in February.
Thank you. Councillor Wing.
Thank you, Mayor Barclay. I will not be voting in favor of this resolution, and given it a lot of thought, and I think the conversation has been really important, but I guess where my position is right now, I've written down some points because I think it's actually important, more important that we consider than just a couple of comments. So at our workshop on August the 5th, we reviewed every single council, committee, commission, and board relative to their mandate and purpose, our participation, and our desire to continue or not. So we did not identify A&P at that time as being a committee of concern or determine a desire to amend its terms of reference, which is Schedule A of our council procedure bylaw. The terms of reference has a very intense description of the work that council should be doing at A&P. And so, if we're not having fulsome A&P meetings, that's on us. I would say to you that eliminating the meeting is, in fact, just making it more evident that there's some of this work that we need to be doing that we haven't maybe been paying attention to. In the 5 summers that I've been on council, we have adjusted our meeting schedule, eliminating A&P meetings, and therefore only meeting for 2 council meetings in July and in August. So it's been in the 11 weeks since our last council meeting on June the 24th. We've met 4 times for council business. And yes, some of us have participated in community events. We've had open houses and a workshop. But I feel like we've become disconnected as a team by reducing our meetings to that degree because there has been a lot of stuff going on. So typically, after we would have a community meeting or an event, at the first AMP immediately following, we would debrief that event. We would talk about the participation, we would talk about the feedback, we would talk about our own agenda and the content and whether we wanted to continue as we move forward. So I feel like we're not closing the loops, or we're waiting to close the loops. And perhaps not having the proper or adequate time to do that because we have other things that are on our regular council meeting agendas. So I would actually propose in the future that we add one A and P back into July and August to ensure the connection and the continuity. I think the timing for this, our most important work and relationship is recruiting, hiring, and subsequent retention of our CAO. And we're all aware of the ongoing work. We aren't even halfway through the process we've identified for the successful completion of the work. And once we have found our preferred candidate, the transition and successful onboarding of that individual will begin. I've sat on both sides of the table. I've been the one reporting to the board, and I've been the director or chair of the board, and I understand the complexities of those relationships and relationship building. But I also understand the need, especially at the beginning, for time to invest in relationships and to ensure we're all moving forward in the same direction. So just sort of my last thought is we have a really aggressive and optimistic strategic plan that we adopted unanimously earlier this year. It identifies significant and important goals and outcomes, none of which will happen if we aren't all on the same page and moving the plan forward. Housing, community economic development, the new recreation master plan, asset management, school site, so on. But finally, the last point on that in that strat plan is around land development. And I saved that for last because last week at our budget meeting, our budget open house, the last guest who joined us, it was about 3:45, was a major land developer in this region who's very curious about what our plans are for future growth. This person is aware of our strategic plan. This company is aware of what our intentions are, and so they're curious about, well, what's coming next? And so it was a significant conversation. It should lead to further meetings and hopefully further outcomes. But I think the biggest gap or biggest lapse in good governance is adopting a strat plan and not resourcing it adequately and effectively. So I just think that to step away, to reduce our meetings by 25%, we eliminate time for ourselves and for our community as well. And so, I would prefer that we, I think that it takes time and commitment to support council. I know it does to support council, but it also takes time, a huge amount of time, for a meeting to be rescheduled or to be inserted into every one of our individual calendars. So if we don't have significant content for an agenda, then council could decide to cancel it. But I think that's much easier than trying to fit meetings in or reschedule them. So that's my thoughts. Thanks.
All right. Thank you very much for those comments. I don't know, I'm kind of all over the place on this. Work ebbs and flows. I think last term we came out of the chute very ambitious, and there was a lot going on. New industrial park development, the Southwest residential, the outdoor rinks, the playgrounds, and on and on and on. The aquatic center took up a lot of time, and I think towards the end of that term, the last couple of years, you can't just keep putting things on administration's desk. They need to have time to breathe and do the work. And so I think that's why we maybe saw a bit of a downturn in time with A&P, but I don't know that. I'm just kind of anecdotally saying that. On the other hand, I think that, you're right, Councillor Russell, we haven't spent a lot of time in A&P or in council meetings for that matter, and that's going to be dependent upon council driving that agenda and driving our strategic priorities, and meetings will last as long as there's good dialogue going on. So if that's not necessarily taking place, then the meetings will be very short. So I don't mind trying this for a few months. I don't know whether it's 6 months or 4 months or whatever it is. I'm interested when we do have a new CEO in place, what their thoughts will be on this. I look at 9 communities on this list, some larger than us that do not have 2 A&Ps a month. And so I do see I see how much time administration does put into the package every week, and that is a lot of administration time, and you're right, it's week after week after week after week, and so I think, you know, some of Councillor Wing's comments are, you know, very valid, but, you know, if we have an open house like we did last week for budget, well, we have opportunities in our round table to report back on those, and that's where that should be happening, or we can put it as an agenda item on the actual agenda. But, you know, I think to support administration and all the things they have on their plate, I wouldn't mind trying this for a few months and see how it goes. And like I said, with a new CEO coming on board, let's see what that person has to say going forward. And it was interesting that, well, I won't get into that, never mind. But yeah, so, yeah, yeah. Okay, so do you want to follow up with anything, Councillor?
Just follow up on Councillor Wing, one comment you made about our committee meeting. It was brought up in our group there, and we did bring it forward at the end, but no decisions were made on any committees at that meeting. It's going to the next stage, but I think I made council aware at that time that I did have this notice of motion already in place coming forward, so. But I think everyone's had their fair share. I respect everyone's opinion, and the motion's on the table, I guess.
Okay, so we'll call all in favor of Councillor Russell's motion. Okay, and opposed? Okay, so 4-2, it's carried. Thank you.
Mayor Barclay?
Yes.
Could I make the second motion now that
Yes.
that first motion's passed? So I move that at the February 22nd, 2027 council meeting, council evaluate the 6-month trial of one AMP meeting per month and decide to either permanently move to one AMP meeting a month or revert back to 2 AMP meetings per month.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any further discussion about that? All in favor? All right, carried unanimously. All right, thank you. Okay, we will move into 4.2 and the CAO report.
Thanks, Mayor Barclay. As you can see, the report is quite brief. One thing I'd highlight is, again, if council has any feedback on your recent council engagement that could come into now or kind of lead into the conversation about budget, it would be helpful for you perhaps, as well as administration, to hear some of that feedback. Other than that, that's my report.
Okay, thank you. Okay, you go first. I have some feedback.
There were a few people that showed up. I know mid-afternoon, midsummer was tough for people to get out, but I think the evening one coming up might have better attendance. But I wonder if we were to advertise that there will be a brief presentation at such and such a time. So I think, what is the hours for the next one, 6 to 8? So whether we say 6:15 or something, there'll be a brief presentation to maybe get people there more at a common time to maybe hear from folks. That's just a suggestion I would have. I don't know if other councillors agree with that, but I think it's important to have those. And I do think the next one being in the evening might be more highly attended. But.
No, I agree. It was a beautiful sunny summer afternoon, and just so everybody knows, Ken had put together some slides for me, and I did have a presentation, but we thought we'd just play it by ear and see how many people came. Some feedback. I will go after Councillor Heistad because he has his lights on. So.
No, that's okay.
No.
I was listening. I should have turned off, Mayor Barclay. I would agree with Councillor Russell, as with many of your comments, as I cut you off. I think it's important to have a bit of a presentation and not a big Q&A, but it was an opportunity. It's another opportunity to have those discussions. So I'm in favor of that. Thanks.
Thank you for that. Some feedback, I would say that the people that I spoke to, it was really around budget and why are, costs going up so much and staffing and that sort of thing. So I'm wondering if we could think about what should we have there. I don't think it's helpful to the person that you're speaking to just to say, oh, well, this and this and this and this, because they're not necessarily going to recollect all those details where, I don't know whether we could have something in print that we could give people that showed inflationary costs, that showed, I know Director Kennedy, I always love that $2,000 to $2,900 number, but update that to whatever it might be now, because it's a good illustrative point to explain, how many staff do we have, right? That was a question I got thankfully Director Vickers was there, because I don't necessarily know that off the top of my head, but how many do we have and how many part-timers do we have and when do they come and when do they go? And I think, you know, the more detail that we can provide, the better. But yeah, I think of even, maybe we talk about accounting software and how much that's going to cost to update and licensing for that kind of thing. And that's something that we didn't have 20 years ago or 15 years ago. So I think there's a lot that's changed, and with how an organization runs, of course, as anybody's organization has changed. So, you know, it's different than it was. So, but those are mostly the conversations I had was around that, and then the developer at the end, but I know that Director Jenkins is dealing with people like that all the time, and we'll bring things forward from that, but it's great to see him there, for sure.
And Council, I've had some discussions with communications, and we were going to update just the advertising that it starts at 6, so that hopefully we'll get everyone there at 6, and that someone will be saying a few words at the beginning to kind of.
Well, I would say there's going to be a presentation, like at 6:15 or something, like Councillor Russell said. And
yeah, we talked about that, and we'll update how that's looking going out to try and get everyone there right at 6, kind of thing. So.
Okay, thank you. And I don't know if there, I know the involved information is up, right, where people can use the slider on there to determine if you want to put money into this or this and what happens. And
Mayor Barclay, so there is a section under the asset management where they can put money in for different assets, and they have a certain dollar amount. And we are continually updating the budget page on Involve each week as we put things out through budget posts. We're continually updating that page, yes.
I think the State of Infrastructure report, we didn't have that there. That would probably be worthwhile to have some copies of that, and because it was a topic of discussion for sure. Just the supports what we're doing, so. Okay. Councillor Heistad.
Mayor Barclay, Councillor Wing was.
That's fine, go ahead.
No, you were ahead of me.
Well, okay, just the other, a question that I've had at the event, but also otherwise, is around assessments and how assessments are actually done. In our last term, we actually had our assessors come and give us a presentation, and so I wonder if that's not an opportunity for the future to have a delegation come and explain how it all happens, and if we could kind of advertise for maybe people would come and listen, but if we could have some information, just saying to them, you can call the town and appeal or question the value, and they're not happy with the response that they get either. So I think if there was some assistance in how do they arrive at the numbers, they don't come and walk through my house, they don't knock on my door, that kind of thing, that would be helpful. Thank you.
So do you mean having Wild Rose come to the presentation?
No, I think Wild Rose coming to council at a future date, but I think information at the budget open house around assessments would be helpful.
When were they here last, Director Vickers?
A couple years ago.
They were here recently.
I thought they were here with new council.
They were,
yeah.
yeah. They were,
It was
yeah.
Very early.
Generally, they.
Yeah, Riley came, yeah.
Yeah.
Councillor Heistad.
Yeah, Mayor Barclay, we were having the same conversations, Councillor Wing and I, with certain people, or certain individuals, and I think this, we talked about the staffing side of things. I think there's a lot of people that have lived here for, years and years and years, and they think it's, 1986 still, and I think that the data and the information will help clarify that, because when I look at the numbers, I don't think it's exponential where we have our staffing, and I think we staff appropriately overall the last number of years that I've sat around the table. But as the assessment piece, that did come up in the discussion, and it's always how do you explain it properly to people, and it's easy to look at the numbers. The couple that we were talking to are saying they've gone around and checked out all the houses and, the areas. And I think it will help us when we're framing that discussion. So, but on the staffing level, I'm confident with it, but it's good to have it readily available. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. All right, anything else? If not, we'll just have a motion to approve the CAO report, please. Councillor McKellar.
Mayor Barclay, I'll make that motion.
All right, all in favor? Carried. Okay, we'll move on to the council action control. Any questions about anything on here? If not, we'll just have a motion to accept council action control as information. Councillor Hill?
I'll make the motion that we accept the council action control as information.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? Carried. All right, we'll move into 5.1 with Director Kennedy.
Thanks, Mayor Barclay. So, yeah, in front of you, a report coming back to you just in regards to a review of the 42nd Street and 52nd Ave intersection. During the review, we also identified an opportunity here to include an inventory of our playgrounds, school zones, as well as an assessment on our traffic signal lights that we look out on an annual basis anyway. Part of the review, so we came up with 4 options. So really one option is to increase pedestrian crossing time, which we did move forward with, increasing it by 5 seconds to 15, which has improved that a lot of time to get across the intersection at 52nd Ave. Option 2, we are looking at changing the existing school zone on 52nd Ave to a playground zone. This would change, would then give some consistency to the other roadways that surround the school, as they are all operated as playground zones as well. Existing cost would be within our existing budget for that. Option 3, we looked at upgrading that traffic signal at that intersection. This would include increasing the timing flexibility during peak hours, changing the intersection to a camera-based monitoring, which gives us, again, more operational ability. We'd look at adding an additional left turn lane, arrow for the eastbound traffic on 42nd Street, as well as replacing all the existing signage heads to LED inserts. That cost for that, just that one intersection upgrade, would be in that $50,000 range. We did look at the additional intersections that we have for traffic lights along 50th Street, at 44th Ave, 49th Ave, and 50th Ave. This would include upgrades to all LED lights, which hasn't happened in a while. Therefore, that cost was roughly $30,000. Those 2 projects we'd look at bringing into our capital budgeting deliberations for further discussion. Then we looked at the playground zone throughout town. Actually, we have 22 playground zone signs, all varying with variety, not being consistent throughout the community. To improve this, we did look at recommending replacing these signs with an updated version, as well as adding additional signage for playground zone hours for clarity, making it 7:30 a.m. to 9 p.m. Additional or estimated cost for this would be in that $1,000 range, which we're recommending doing as part of our operating project next year. So we are recommending proceeding with option 2, as well as proceeding with the replacement of the playground signs in 2027, and then bringing in further discussion for option 3 for the intersection light upgrades. So we'll take any discussion.
All right, thank you, Director Kennedy. So do the lights have LEDs now, or?
They're not.
They're not, okay. I wasn't sure whether you meant replacing or
No,
changing.
upgrading.
Okay, yeah, okay. All right, so I'll have somebody please make the recommended motion, and then we will open it up for discussion. Councillor Heistad.
I'll make that motion. The council direct administration to proceed with conversion of the school zone on 52nd Avenue between 42nd Street and 47th Street to a playground zone in 2026.
Okay, thank you. Anybody have any comments about that?
I had comments about, I think it's that left-hand turn, 42nd. I think that's in the 52nd there. How, with the broom, you guys are confident with that? You know what I'm...
You're talking about to upgrade the intersection?
Yeah, the integrate.
Yeah, it would just be a light signal. So it wouldn't be adding a lane.
Okay, that's what I was thinking.
Just add a flashing light
There's a-
for a left turn designated.
Okay, all right, thank you. I was like, how the heck could that happen? So, no, I appreciate that.
Okay, Councillor Wing?
Thank you, Mayor Barclay, and through to Director Kennedy. When we talked about this the last time, we briefly touched on, the fact that the playground, or the playground zone doesn't extend all the way past the ball diamonds on 52nd. And we know that the speed on 52nd is becoming more and more of an issue, so I wonder why we wouldn't consider extending the playground zone all the way to just short of 40th Street to incorporate all of the green space. There's kids running back and forth from what used to be Max across to the ball diamonds, whatever. And I just think that perhaps then that might help slow people down in general on 52nd.
We could definitely look at that as further review, I guess. When Director Leith comes back, we can look at it further.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Hill?
Yes, I think that since we've had this brought up, and obviously it was a worthy topic to have the time and resources put into this, as far as the $1,000 cost for the signs and it being proposed in the 2027, is there any way, I understand it's finding capacity, but what would have to happen outside of the budgetary expense of the $1,000 to be able to implement the new signs? Obviously, I know that time is not free and we can't always just free up staff like that, but is there any way it could be done prior to 2027 since we already have the need for it and the cost is I feel, acceptable?
Councillor Hill, we could look at trying to include it in this year's, but it is down to resources. Our teams get into their fall kind of program here to get going on. Replacing signage is just as one more thing, so that's why we were looking at putting it into our 2027 tasks.
Okay, CouncillorMcKellar or Councillor Russell, anything?
Thank you, Mayor Barclay. I would just like to comment on Councillor Wing's comment about extending that down 52nd to about just before 40th Street there. That makes a lot of sense to me because of the traffic issues we have that start just past the lights there.
Councillor Russell?
Councillor Heistad did have his light on. He's been so polite to everyone else.
I thought we'd try to go around and then I'll go back to him again. How's that?
I tried.
Appreciate that comment.
No, I agree with a lot of the comments. I do like the consistency in the signs because I know some of them it's sunrise to sunset. Well, what is that? When is that? You know, and when schools are in session, well, which school is and isn't in session creates confusion. So I do like the consistency. I agree with Councillor Hill about the $1,000. If we could get it done sooner, it'd be great. But if it is more of a resource issue rather than the money issue, I get that as well, but I'd like to see it as soon as we could do that. And I do like Councillor Wing's suggestion of getting Director Leith's involvement and seeing should we maybe extend that down to the end of the ball diamonds, because that is a busy area for kids moving back and forth, and I see it all the time when I bike through there, the amount of pedestrian traffic happening. So
Yeah, it's interesting. Well, I live down there, so as does Councillor McKellar, and drive that road a lot. So I'm not a huge fan of turning the playground zone or the school zone into a playground zone. I'll give you my reasons why. The street is wide. On 51st, there's houses that front that street. There's the community entrances or the front door entrances to two schools. On 52nd, the entrances to the schools are well off that street. And so after, say, 4:30, 5 o'clock, there's not much happening along there. Like even after school activities are taking place on 51st Avenue for the most part, or people are driving into the parking lot. And then I think of all of July and August, there's nothing. But also, if you go further down by the Circle K store, of course, and that ball diamond, I mean, there is lights for the crosswalk there, flashing lights, but it is pretty busy. To me, all along, that the big deal has been the intersection at 42nd and 52nd, just the congestion there twice a day during school hours. But, you know, I guess to provide consistency, if we're going to bring Director Leith in to see about extending the rest of it, it wouldn't make sense to have school zone, playground zone. That would really confuse people. So Councillor Heistad.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say I agree with Councillor Hill on the $1,000 and bumping it up 2026. As to Councillor Wing's comment about the playground zone down to 40th, I'm just referring back to a conversation we had. Councillor Hill, correct me if I'm wrong, you looked at the whole area as a campus to make it safer for everybody. So I'm good with us making sure that we're doing our due diligence and working with Director Leith on, if we extend that playground zone. But I think this is a really good opportunity for us to improve some of the safety in our community. Thanks.
So to council, to piggyback where you're at, so we have a motion on the table as per the recommended motion. We're hearing some feedback to direct administration to consider or to explore moving the playground zone from 42nd Street to 40th Street or around that area. So that if that's council's wishes, then I'd recommend moving into an amendment to direct administration accordingly.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so we'll have an amendment to the motion then, please, to add the playground zone extending to 40th Street, or almost, yeah, to the end of 40th. Councillor Russell.
Is the amendment to request administration to bring back more information regarding that, or to make that switch right now? I think it's to bring back more information. Right now, we'd just be approving the school zone conversion, right? But in addition to that, also bring us back information about possibly extending.
We should have two different motions then.
Yeah,
I think maybe it should,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, two motions. One is original motion, which you'll deal with later, but the one right now is, if you want, is if there's a motion on it that can be presented, it'd be to amend the current motion, or to have an amending motion to proceed with the conversion of the school zone on 52nd Avenue between 42nd and 40th Street.
So, yeah, I was going to ask you, Becker, council can decide to do that. We don't need to have a report come back from Director Leith, so that's what we wish to do. And,
So
or,
I think Mayor Barclay is, as for the director stating, hey, I want the Director of Protective Services eyes on this recommendation.
okay, all right, we'll have
Yeah.
two different, how about we have two different motions and we'll keep it clean. So we'll have the first motion, 52nd and 42nd playground. And then we'll have another motion to direct administration. Okay? So who wants to make the first? Councillor?
So Councillor Heistad already made the first motion.
I wasn't listening to him, sorry. Kidding. Okay, all in favor? Kinda, couldn't remember. Okay, and then we'll have another motion, please, to direct administration to bring back a report on extending that playground zone to 40th Street. Councillor Hill?
I would make that said motion.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. And then the third motion. Councillor Russell.
Thanks, Mayor Barclay. I move that council direct administration to include funding for traffic signal upgrades, LED traffic light conversions, and playground signage improvements in the 2027 budget process.
All right, thank you. All in favor? Okay, carried. All right, and we'll move into 2027 budget priorities, 6.1 with Director Vickers.
Thank you, Mayor Barclay. So we brought this report before council to just kind of begin the discussion around the priorities for the 2027 budget, and also to kind of put in front of you guys budget deliberation dates and start thinking about getting those booked, just because we know how hard it can be to get everyone in the room at the same time. So the report today brings together the strategic plan that council previously had passed, our draft corporate plan that's kind of brand new before council today, and our updated 10-year capital plan, and it's kind of just the starting point for the development of the budget. So earlier this year, as I said, council adopted the strategic plan and identified 4 pillars that will guide the town's work over your 4-year term. Within those 4 pillars, council did identify 3 goals for particular attention during the 2026 and 2027 year. And those were increase housing options that are diverse, affordable, and accessible, increase recreation and wellness opportunities, and develop a clear approach to the town's role in land development. So the draft corporate plan kind of takes those priorities and identifies the work administration is proposing over the next kind of several years. And the 10-year capital plan provides the longer-term look at infrastructure, facilities, fleet, and other capital requirements. And these documents are intended to kind of work together and provide the framework that administration is using to present Budget 2027 to Council. So let's talk about budget deliberations too. So each year we do like to look at 3 full days of budget deliberations, typically in that 3rd week in November. So for 2026, this year it would be the 17th to the 20th of November. And in advance of budget deliberations, we always tend to look at some organizations that through our budget, we actually bequeath money out to, specifically the Public Library and the Historical Village. They can come in advance, so not during budget deliberations, but just prior to, and that's the moment that they can talk to council about their budget request, their ask for what they're looking for the next year. So I want to take this opportunity to ask, is there any other organizations that you would like us to invite with the purposes to hear some kind of budget request? So not an organization that we just want to hear what they're doing, that can happen anytime, but these would have a very specific ask for them to come to council with whatever budget request they're wanting. So typically we like the library to present to us how much money they need for the next year, what their request of the town is, that we then can discuss within our budget.
Mayor Barclay, this might be out of turn, but is there a term of an agreement we have with the Lions Club and the campground? Is that something that is that still all good?
So, I wonder, do you know when does?
Because that's a subsidized piece the town is involved in.
Yeah, the campground agreement expires in December this year.
Okay, so
Yep.
so potentially having them in this year would be appropriate?
Yep.
We
Okay.
can
I
ask
just kind of, yeah. Thank you.
Perfect, we'll add that to the list. Yeah. Is there anyone else like that kind of group that you'd like to see? If not, we can add some later, it's no big deal, but. Okay, so we have attached the updated 10-year capital plan, and currently it's identifying $20.7 million in capital expenditures from 2027 to 2029. So approximately 3.88 million in 2027, 5 million in 2028, and then you can see a large jump of 11.84 million in 2029. That does hold the arena project that's sitting in our 10-year capital plan. You will see later in this project that we are looking to do an arena feasibility study later next year, and that will kind of finalize the arena project, kind of identify what it looks like. Yes?
Director Vickers. Yes. Recreation. I do not want to, personally, am concerned about making a step into recreation facilities without Red Deer County being involved. Because when we look at the rec agreement and what's required in there for us to keep them apprised of the needs in this community, when we look what's happened with the ICF, and then I think it's really important that we make sure that we're not getting ahead of ourselves. And I would also like us to think about, and I'm sure you already do, but there's grant programs that come and go. And I have reached out to Blaine Calkin's office to have them send some information about the announcement a couple of weeks ago. But how do we align, or can we even align what we need to do, or some of the work we need to do with grants? And what does shovel-ready mean? Do we have to have a design in place? I always felt that the Dodds Lake work that we did that partly because so we would have something ready to go if an opportunity came up. But are we missing out on things because, well, we'd like to do this, or we're going to do this, but it doesn't fit here, 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 and here? And I think of infrastructure, water, wastewater. There was, federal, provincial announcement 2 weeks ago on that. And what does it take to qualify? What does it take to qualify with the government of Alberta's water, wastewater facilities? I know we've tried in the past and we haven't been successful, because it, doesn't quite fit, right, Director Kennedy? And so I really like administration to, I guess, do makes it sound like you're not doing the work. I know you're doing the work, but I would like us to kind of have that information come forward to see where we can align our priorities with what kind of grant funding is available, if that's even possible, and maybe it's not.
We can absolutely explore what that could look like. Yeah. And like, this is all preliminary numbers, and everything is just, so the 10-year capital report, that's really where all our building condition assessments, and when we've done all that stuff from the state of infrastructure, that's kind of where that's pushing us, is to kind of invest those dollars in. And that's where the arena project is. It's sitting from those building condition assessments, that there is that large project. So we do need to really iron that out and see about what that is, and really kind of create that shovel-ready project, so that if there is a potential grant, we are ready to apply for that.
Yeah, I just don't think it's fair to the residents of our community and our business owners that they are bearing the burden of the recreation facilities and the library. You know, and I look at the, we'll get to the letter in our correspondence, but.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, Mayor Barclay, just in regards to that, with the expenditure zone and further work with the county, I guess I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think that there's a lot more work that needs to be done with that partnership and that work with them. Do we want to have those meetings more regularly? Like, you know, like that's, I think there's an opportunity with that, and making sure that there's more structured meetings with the county, and as we're coming up to 2029, because there's a lot of work to do on this one. So I agree with you, but I just want to know what your expectations were of us as councillors, as well as the administration.
Yeah, it would be the ICF committee that would do that, and that would be dependent upon the two administrations to we have a project, and, you know, we need to speak earlier, obviously. You know, you look at the letter for Rotary from the county, they're saying no to the bike park, but also saying it needs to go to ICF, but they're already saying no to it. So, you know, and I know Rotary went to Red Deer County, they were told you have to go through the town of Innisfail, and so when they do, it's a no. But the skate park didn't have to go through that process. So I think we're clear now that we need to use this ICF process to ask for funding, and to make sure we do that going forward, and not to get ahead of ourselves.
Okay. Yeah, we'll look into that and see what we need to do to make sure the appropriate steps are being followed, but we still want to make council aware of what those numbers kind of look like. And what we're currently expecting right now. We do anticipate that arena project, that is just for what's in that building condition assessment, not for anything new or expanded or anything like that. So that number will definitely get redefined as we go forward, hopefully through the building condition assessment and whatever conversations we need to have with Red Deer County or any other committee as well. So.
Well, we're on the topic of recreation. With the Recreation Master Plan, Director Jenkins, are they involved in any feedback in that as well?
They'll be invited to like a stakeholder meeting or whoever, whether that's on the elected side or administratively, they'll be invited as part of that outreach. And again, sort of that feasibility study is the attempt to be ready for those grant opportunities. Again, the grant opportunities pop up and they want you to be able to justify what you're going to do. And if we don't have that laid out, particularly with the arena where, as Director Vickers mentioned, that's $9 million, that's just replacing all the things that have been identified for replacement. That's not new dressing rooms, that's not an expansion, that's not washrooms, that's not anything. So trying to develop a project scope so that, you know, even if the project's 2 or 3 years out from that study, you have it so when the grant comes in and says, how is this project going to enrich the community, you have that information.
Okay, no, thank you for that.
Okay, so we'll move on. So administration, we've also prepared an early kind of 3-year projection to give council the sense of some of the financial pressures that are currently showing for 2027 to 2029. So here's kind of where we're sitting today. So you can see that the tax requirement current increases are kind of looking like that. So in 2027, a total increase of 8.82, and so on and so forth. So, and this 3-year projection is kind of, look at it at 2 parts. So the base operating budget and then new initiatives and funding requirements. So the first base operating budget, so this is the estimated cost of continuing everything that we've currently have now. So all the current staff, the current programs, any increases and decreases, they're all included in that number. Then the second part is any new initiatives and funding. So you can see that in 2027, 8.04%, those are new initiatives. So this could be new debt saving, there is still the last year of the aquatic center debt servicing is included in that number. So that's all new stuff. So breaking the projection out that way kind of gives council a clear picture what's changing from the existing budget and what is just standard from last year. And again, these are still preliminary figures and everything will be continued to be refined before budget deliberations. As you can see, something happened just before this that would now add more money into this budget that was not put in here before. That $50,000 for the intersection was not in here. And now we will have to add that in there. So more things will come out before we get to budget deliberations. Salary estimates will be updated for actual staff costing and benefit costs, and we'll continue still to look out what other municipalities are doing. We'll continue to update any major external costs such as policing, insurance, electricity, natural gas, any regional wastewater and water, as well as any other information that becomes available. So one of the significant items is that continued increase in funding for capital infrastructure replacement. So this did start in 2025 where we started with $200,000 and then an additional $200,000 in 2026. And we would like to continue doing that until we hit that $2.4 million gap in capital spending each year. So we are looking to do that increase $200,000 each year. So we're looking at 627 will be 828 and then $1 million going into reserves in 2029. And this is that gradual increase to kind of build up that infrastructure gap. So one of the things you can see there that the aquatic center debt servicing, that final year is in there. And then once that 2027 year servicing in there, we will be fully funded to make sure we're making that full payment for that aquatic center, including debt and line of credit payment as well. Then you can see a new project. So we are looking to do something kind of similar for the arena. We know that it's early in discussions, and this is kind of the first time council's kind of seen this. But while we're looking to do that feasibility study and start planning what that project's going to look like, we know that likely we're going to have some form of payment. We will take every opportunity to look for every grant and access every other form of funding we can, but we do want to be prepared that if at the end of the day we still might have a portion of a line of credit or a portion of some debt, that we're starting to build some of that debt equity kind of in our reserves. Just an early thought, we just want to make sure that it's kind of front and center for discussion with council. And also there's some other initiatives. So in 2027, so in addition to any of that infrastructure and debt funding, it does include 2 new positions. So one being a planner position. So as you guys know, PCPS is no longer. That happened last year. We're kind of trying to figure out what that looks like. We did have a planner position on the books. It was removed last year. And now with PCPS gone, we do need to make some choices of what we're going to do. So either we do need to hire a planner. If we don't hire a planner, there will definitely be increased costs to reach out to get some kind of planning activities done with some kind of third party, which we don't know what that would look like yet. But this way we would have a planner in-house for about $120,000. Now that hopefully would be all in, inclusive of benefits. And then we also have another parks operator position that would be needed as well. With the addition of all the new subdivisions, Bella Vista, the new one that we're bringing on, which likely in next year they will have to have some activities in there, plus the new industrial park. They just need some more staff, right, to help with all that work. In 2028, they have the continued infrastructure, but then they also have the downtown area redevelopment plan update. So you can see that in 2028 for $50,000. And then in 29, we're looking to add in a human resources coordinator as well for around that $120,000. So, and most
Vickers,
of these...
can I ask why an HR coordinator, like when we have a third party? Or
Just like cost, the third party is quite expensive. We'd be able to get more full-time hours with someone internal. We'd still likely maybe want to keep an external person for very high-level terminations, potentially complaints, like within, to have a third-party complaint system for staff to go to if there's some issues. Again, this is all preliminary, and we will iron these out kind of as we go through.
Okay.
So any of these costs that are in there, they do continue beyond the year that they're first introduced. So any of the permanent positions or any of the like debt contributions, once they're in there, they are in there permanently unless it's physically reduced the next year. So if we add in 200,000 for debt servicing, when we start budget next year, it's already in there now. However, the one-time expenses, some of those new initiatives, those operating projects, those will go away at the end of the year. So that money doesn't stay in the budget year after year. Okay. And at this stage, none of these initiatives are approved. We're just being presented to give council an early look at kind of what we're thinking about in the 3-year projection. Council can amend them, defer them, change any of the timing, phase them in, consider funding, other funding sources, or ask administration to bring back different financial scenarios if you don't like some of these. We have also begun public participation process for 2027. We had our first public session last week, and we have started doing our weekly posts online. So today, administration is just looking for council to provide any of those initial comments that you guys have on the direction of the priorities or timing reflected in any of the plans. Anything council would like administration to look at differently before we're doing budget deliberations. And I guess, yeah, any other organizations we already have identified at the campground that we'll invite, and any specific dates that you guys could pick now. I understand that Councillor Strong's not here, but just start thinking about some of those budget deliberation dates.
Yeah, I would just comment that, like the tax increases that are shown in here, requirement increases based on some of this information, I think is too high. I'll just put it that way. I just don't think we can keep going at 8, 10%, 7, 8, 9% every year. It's too much for people. And I realize, I understand the other side of it, and things aren't getting done, but at the same time, it's a lot.
Yep.
Councillor Russell.
Thanks, Mayor Barclay. I would echo your comments. Like, when I saw those numbers, my heart jumped a beat. But, you know, I do understand the rising costs and what we have to do too. So, you know, this is just preliminary numbers, preliminary discussion. We're going to have a lot of detailed conversations on those 3 dates in November. There is some data that I'd like to have for that, but I think I'll wait and ask it at that meeting, or unless you'd want it now to prepare for it, or...
The earlier we can get some of your questions so that we can gather the information, the better, because it could take us some time to gather anything.
Okay. I don't think this will take long, but I'll put it out there now. Oh, sorry.
I certainly welcome your feedback, Councillor Russell and all the council. This is only the first meeting. There's going to be several meetings up to November.
Right.
That's getting into the fine detail, but there's going to be a lot of discussion with you as we move along up to that date.
Right.
So anytime, yeah, please.
So do you want it now, or want me to hold off? Okay. I would just like to know, I know we have roughly $15 million in debt right now, right, between the industrial park and the aquatic center. I'd just like to know what is the annual interest that we pay combined on those, and what that equates to in terms of a average amount for let's say my tax bill. Is it $250 my tax bill is just going simply to pay interest, right? I just would like to know that number.
I would say on that note too, Director Vickers, when you bring that, or at some point in time, you know, I know we talked about the land sales, Southwest Industrial going to pay off some debt, and when is that taking place? And I know when sales close and that kind of thing, but yeah, that might look very different a year from now.
Absolutely.
Right? So,
yeah, we actually discussed debt this morning,
yeah,
and the options that we could look at once some of these sales kind of go through,
yeah,
and we have some of the money sitting there to actually play with, then we could look at paying down some debt.
Could you, or Director Jenkins, could you bring kind of an overview of like the grant programs that are out there, do we need to know that, CO Becker? Or is it more of an administration thing? Like, we don't need like a 20-page report, but it would be nice, I think, just.
Council has that interest or
Yeah.
have that right to request that information. It's really up to you.
Okay. And then maybe even like Director Kennedy, explain again or have it in this report, what qualifies with water, wastewater infrastructure and is that changing or who knows, right?
Mayor Barclay? I would make the motion if we were all in, do we want to choose those 3 dates right now? I mean, I would put out there like the 17th, 18th, 19th, but I don't know what's available. That's the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. If Friday works better for other councillors, it's flexible for me, any of those 17 to 20, so whatever works for people that need to rearrange schedules, but.
Councillor Hill says as long as it doesn't snow, he'll be fine.
Okay, all right, so we'll no snow on the 17th, 18th, and 19th. It'll be
It's a direction.
whatever.
Okay, so that's a motion. Is everybody good with that? Okay, all in favor of the motion? Okay, carried.
I like it.
Okay.
Can I ask a
Jenkins?
question of council, just with respect to that corporate plan document? It's sort of the first time council has seen that document. We've probably been working on it for the better part of a year, and it's outdated as soon as you finish it. But if there's any sort of feedback as to whether it's helpful being able to have sort of that 3-year outlook, those types of things, is the information in it of value? The intent is that it would be a public-facing document that would be sort of updated every other year to go through.
Okay, yeah, no, it's very valuable. Thank you. Scary, but valuable.
Yes, Mayor Barclay, don't get me wrong, we assumed that when you guys saw those tax amounts, you would be, oh, that's interesting, a little bit.
That's nice.
And we would assume that those are not going to be the final numbers. Either you're going to direct us to pull from grants, adjust priorities, reduce other expenses. So we knew that that's not, but this is where we're starting, right?
Yeah, and I was also interested too, seeing the assessment you're expecting it to.
So a lot of that is new assessment, and that is, we looked through the houses that we currently have for sale and the capital buildings that we have for sale and some of that, and so we kind of worked it out. It may not be exactly in those 3 years, we kind of spread it out over the 3 years, so it could be higher in 1 year and less in, but, so that is kind of amounts that we're kind of relying on with the new area that we're bringing on this year too. So over the next couple of years on when those assessments will realize into our as taxes.
And I also want us to be, I realized last year we reduced the mill rate a bit, and yet there was still a significant increase. So I want us to keep that in mind, because there's no sense saying we reduced our taxes or 0% tax increase when people are getting hit with 10% tax increases. That's.
So, council, though, is there anything in here outside of the amounts? Obviously, that's shocking, but is there any project on here that you don't like? Like, do you want us to remove the arena debt servicing one for now? Is there something that you're not happy with? Are we kind of in the right direction, but we just need to finalize things? So just some of those comments would be helpful, just to make sure we're not going until November and you're like, we don't want any of that.
Yeah,
right?
no,
So-
I think you need to plan for the arena, but I'm just really cautious right now that we do that in the right order, and maybe there's some partnership on a cost of a.
And even if we were
Design
building
for a-
debt capacity for the arena project, likely I would recommend that we take that and put it onto the line of credit for now. And then we're paying less debt, but at least we have capacity in our budget for a future debt payment. So there could be those options as well too. But-
And we don't know either, specifically, and you'll get into that later, what some of the capital projects are, right?
That's
Some of
right.
the big ones,
Yeah.
but,
Yeah.
so. Okay,
And for 2027, the priority is linear infrastructure, roads and underground, right?
as always.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, you'll see the full listing of all the specific projects as we get closer.
Okay. Anything else? No, we're good. Okay, thank you. We've got our date selected, so that's good. So we will move on to 7.1 and the Regional Rec Facility Inventory Study.
Thank you, Mayor Barclay. So as council's aware, I believe this letter was in your correspondence a couple weeks ago. Red Deer County has invited regional municipalities to participate in the creation of a regional recreation facility inventory intended to support some of these conversations around recreation needs and opportunities, gaps in services, and how those decisions will be made in the future. The county's looking for application partners, a letter of support, and/or an indication of willingness to participate in data sharing for a proposed application through the Alberta Community Partnerships Grant. So that's a Government of Alberta grant available to municipalities. This is sort of a first step that has been discussed administratively in the past as a way to start a regional conversation around the rec agreements and rec funding. So we do feel that it's valuable to be a part of this conversation and be a partner for that grant. Allows us to be involved both in the scope development of the project as well as the sort of input. This is the type of thing, even on a data sharing level, we would share our data for even, we get requests even outside of the region from municipalities doing sort of rec master plans similar to what we're doing. So that's something that we would do in any type of situation likely.
So Director Jenkins, like what is the, like what is, I guess the purpose is sharing our data, which I think we do, but you know, how involved would Innisfail be? Like, are we going to be at the table with this, or is it going to be all Red Deer County doing this work and we're going to send them some information? And
so again, they're looking for that project partnership. We at this point have as much information as this letter, and I've had a brief sort of email correspondence back and forth with their administration. Again, it's going to be funding dependent whether the project moves forward. In my opinion, as the more involved we can be in that, helping with the grant application, the more we're likely to get out of the study. But again, they'll be looking for data across the board about facilities, about usage data, about age of facilities, all of those types of things to try to create a picture across the region of what is available and where some of those needs are. So.
are you trying to put your light on, CEO Becker? There you go. You look like you were trying to put your light on.
If council has reservation, I think the deadline for submission is October for the grant.
15th, yeah. The county had asked for an indication of participation by the end of August.
Yeah. As per your question, Mayor Barclay, if council or yourselves seeking more information on the scope of the project, outline what you're signing up for. I think that's a legitimate question. You can certainly pose that back to administration before moving into this recommended motion, if that's what where you're leading to.
Yeah, it is what I'm leading to. I'd like to see more information on how we would be at the table. And Councillor Russell?
Yeah, Mayor Barclay, I'd agree. I'd like more information. I'd like to know what is the outcome that Red Deer County is hoping to have out of this. I don't know. Is it to not fund individual communities, but maybe look at, okay, the study says we only need 3 arenas in this area. We've got 6, so we're out of that game. Like, I don't know what the goal of this is, right? So I don't know. I'd like that information, like what is the purpose and what is the end goal what is the objective they're hoping to achieve by doing this?
Councillor Hill?
Yeah, I do obviously see some of the hesitation and wanting to know more about it. I obviously, from our standpoint, or my standpoint, I would say it would be nice for the inventory study to identify that Innisfail is definitely in need of some investment, and that we have seeing the needs assessment and all our numbers that we do provide a service to the county residents, and I think it's kind of a double-edged sword. It could be used against us, but it could also be used to help us as well. But I do understand the hesitation, and I would also want more information, but that's my understanding of it. But I guess it is, like I said, a double-edged sword, but hopefully it would not be sharp on our end, so.
I just add too, I do see, Mayor Barclay, that the letter is CC'd to pretty much every municipality within Red Deer County's boundaries, right? So I wouldn't want to be the only one not at the table, but, because that could put us at a huge disadvantage as well. But just a bit more information, maybe you'll hear from other administration what other communities are thinking about this, and I think if we bring it to the next meeting, I think we still meet the timeline, don't we, to respond? Yeah.
Councillor Wing?
I mean, I certainly share everyone's concern based on history and, sort of how we're feeling right now. They're not asking us for money, they're asking us for support. I think that we're better placed at the table with a list of all of our concerns and ensuring that the data that is relevant to us is being seen and heard at that table. So, I mean, we can certainly ask for more information now officially from Red Deer County, but if they need a letter if they need something by the end of August, I mean, I guess we can ask for them to give us extra time, but they have asked us for the information or for agreement by the end of the month, so I wouldn't have a problem saying, let's be involved and be at the table.
You did say October that the application's going in?
Red Deer County has asked for indication by the end of August
Yes.
that the grant is due
Yeah.
the 15th of August. So they would need to determine if they're starting to prepare that grant application.
And I think it's fair to ask for more information. We have a meeting coming up in a couple of weeks, and I would like to see more information. And kind of the purpose. And I agree with Councillor Russell.
Mayor Barclay, would it be possible when administration talks to them saying we're going to make a decision at, what is our next meeting, September 8th?
Yeah.
That we'll make that decision?
Well,
What's that?
to council, that's our dialogue we're having. Council, based on your motion of canceling your first AMP meetings, you wouldn't be meeting until the 15th of September. So, which is basically 3 weeks away. It's a pretty significant time gap.
But isn't our AMP meetings are the first Monday of each month, so that would
Correct.
be
September 8th.
September 8th, yeah.
But
We can't give you direction at that meeting?
we don't have an AMP meeting that day.
It's a regular one.
No, because you just canceled your first
We canceled
AMP
the AMP
meetings.
meeting. The second, we canceled the first, not the third AMP of the month.
So you're meeting on the 15th, 20th, whatever, and then the end of September. That's your
Okay.
meeting schedule.
Yeah.
When we canceled?
I think if they need it by the 30th, maybe we should make a decision today then about whether we provide that. We can always, we're not committing any money like Councillor Wing said, right? So,
Well, maybe we can do both. We can commit, but also ask them for more information, because I think we need that, for sure.
Mayor Barclay, speaking to this, I'd like to see us commit to the letter and then follow up with the ask, because all we're doing here is they've invited us to the table. Sometimes I always say it's better to be in the room versus looking through the window into the room. So I would move in that direction or support the direction.
I will. Mayor Barclay, I would move that council commit to being a project partner with Red Deer County for the purpose of an Alberta Community Partnership Grant application for the completion of a regional recreation facility inventory study.
And we also would like administration to bring back more information on the scope of this project. Or you don't want to see more information?
I can't imagine saying no to being involved, quite honestly, so more information or not. But if having more information provided to us in advance of the application is good for, if that's what council wants, I'm fine with that. So we can certainly add that in.
Okay, all in favor? All right, we'll move into 8.1, correspondence and information. Okay, next. I would, again, want more information on what this means for Innisfail. Maybe we could have Drive come in and do a presentation to us, or administration could bring back some more information. Do you want a motion on that, CEO Becker? Or? Okay. Okay, I will make a motion then that we, administration invites Red Deer Drive to come in and do a presentation to us about their new economic development body and how they see Innisfail fitting. Any comments? All in favor? Okay. And RCMP stats. Anybody have any questions about that? And then we have MPC minutes. So we'll just have a motion to accept the correspondence as information, please. Councillor Hill.
Mayor Barclay, I would make that motion that we accept the correspondence as information.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, all in favor? Carried. All right, we'll do council reports next. So we'll begin with Councillor Hill.
Mayor Barclay, I did not submit
We know.
as you can tell, nothing to report.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Wing.
My report is in the package, Mayor Barclay. I don't have anything to add.
Okay, thank you. CouncillorMcKellar.
Mayor Barclay, my information is in the package as well, and no further information to add.
Okay, thanks. Councillor Russell.
Thanks, Mayor Barclay. My report is there, but I would like to say that I've seen the lights along Main Street have been put up. Now that it's getting dark before my bedtime, I might be able to see them at night as well, so I appreciate that.
And Councillor Heistad.
Yeah, Mayor Barclay, just the only comment I'd have, I went to the Government of Alberta Data Center consultation in Lacombe, and also went to the one in NDP Data Center consultation. It was interesting, right, seeing both sides, and it's a hot topic, so I chose to go to both of those to learn more about what was going on in the province and potentially in the future. So just wanted to bring that up as a highlight. And it's, you know, an awkward topic, but I think there's ways to do it in the right way in our province, and it takes a lot of consultation and work on all parties, so thanks.
Okay, thanks. And I don't have anything further. Did go see the corn roast at the Historical Village on Saturday, and then the Lantern Festival, which was really lovely in the evening. Former Councillor Bates's grandson was playing at the Lantern Festival, which was great, so it was a really good evening. Okay, we'll move into upcoming events. And the wastewater meeting that was originally for August 21st has been switched to September 14th. And we'll just have a motion, please, to accept the upcoming events as information. Councillor McKellar.
Mayor Barclay, I'll make that motion.
Awesome, thank you. All in favor? Okay, carried. And then we'll have a motion to go in camera. Councillor Heistad.
I'll make the motion to go in camera.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried.